Greg, I want to thank you for all the work. This is really not your job. We're doing this for the Children's Center, which is not an agency, but you've come to the plate, and I think you've done a commendable job.
Thank you.
I have another issue that I would ask the town attorney, John, if you would reflect. The enabling legislation was in 1990. And the terms of the legislation were that the Children's Center would pay 100%, and there would be no families on it.
It's important for me to respond to that. The key is that in 1990, all that happened was the town council voted in a resolution. And as Randy and I have talked at length about, and as he reflected the last time, that was not an action that bound the town. It was not a legislative act. Rather, all it was a decision of a resolution. By resolution, it wasn't in the form of an ordinance, and it wasn't binding on the town. There's no associated contract. It's a recitation of what the town council wanted to do. We don't view it as any form of legal undertaking that's binding on our town. Rather, what's important is the decision at hand is one. Well, there's two real decisions. One is there's been a decision, I believe, by the chief executive officer of the town, which is the mayor, working with his personnel director. There's a couple of ordinances that give the personnel director presently it's his responsibilities. Those responsibilities include overseeing, implementing, and administering personnel directives and benefits of the town. Across the town for personnel purposes. So I believe he's been acting with the chief executive officer and making the decision, which was articulated in a letter to the Children's Center, which basically gave them a 3-month window of warning that the town was no longer going to abide by. And that was an executive determination that they were not employees under the Cigna plan. Now, there's a second decision that I think that's presents before us, which is the possibility of a legislative act of the town council. And I believe the town council could do this in possibly as many as 3 different ways. One would be, well, let me just say first, we do not think it's advisable to try to amend the personnel code, because the personnel code itself is a body of rules that apply only to municipal employees. That's going to be very difficult. So the first way I would say quickly is an ordinance. Second way, less advisable, would only be a 1-year stopgap, would be, in your discretion, a supplemental appropriation that would cover the shortfall that would be facing the Children's Center if they were pulled out from the health insurance plan. You understand that you are appropriating $78,500, but you are effectively giving them a form of subsidy by allowing their employees to be eligible on that Cigna plan, which the executive branch has determined is not going to be viable in the absence of legislative act. The third, I don't think is advisable at all, which would be if you found some type of public emergency to exist, which I don't think exists, you'd have to find a threat immediately to lives, health, or property of persons. I don't really think that applies, but you can. There is a charter provision that allows you to adopt an emergency ordinance. But I think the proper way would be the Section 406 ordinance, which would have to require a public meeting. You have to have a public hearing, not a public meeting. A public hearing on that ordinance. It would have to be written very carefully to exclude the exact concerns that the personnel director and the mayor have about making sure that this ordinance is not used as evidence to establish an employer-employee relationship or other kinds of liability exposures to the town. So I've said enough. I hope that's clear.
Thank you. This is a very wonderful explanation to the question I didn't ask, but that's okay. I'll ask it again.
You did say that there was legislation. There wasn't any legislation.
Okay. When the action that the town council took, it was to allow the Children's Center to go on our policy, but they would pay 100%, and there would be no families. My question to you,
I think there was some language at one point of employee plus one.
Plus one, right.
Which I think
a spouse or a
all right. My question is that if we resolve this, knowing that that was what the intent of the council was in 1990, what do we do about the fact that they're paying 70%? There's nothing in the record that allowed them to reduce it from 100% to 70% or have families. But knowing that that was the original intent of the council, do we have to go back to what they said in 1990?
In your legislative action now, you're not bound by what the town council did in that resolution. There's no binding contract that was formed in 1990 between the Children's Center and the town, in our view.
So what did it accomplish?
It basically articulated, we think, it was a policy that was articulated in a resolution that was then followed and deferred to by the chief executive officer for, I believe, 26 years.
Wow. I understand why Jeff was concerned.
Here's what I'm going to suggest in light of the options, so that we give Greg and myself some guidance as to where we're going with this. I would entertain a motion if there is support for passing an ordinance that redefines an employee to include the Children's Center employees for purposes of health insurance. Then that's a motion that should be made now, and if it doesn't carry, then you know, you could address offering these different plans that are comparable in terms of price. But that's where I think we're at.
I'd like to see a comparison before we make that type of decision here. I mean,
You can discuss that in a...
right, I'm just hoping that we can get it side by side in the near future. I mean, we have till October.
Okay, so, yeah, Mr. Best.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make that motion. If I have a second, I mean, I'll speak to the motion. I think that by doing the motion, they can help the process. They can help everybody know that we're moving forward. It gives Greg an opportune time, such as yourself, and all parties involved an opportunity to craft the legislation, if this body speaks, to move forward or not move forward. So I think this is a very proactive thing to do. And I would, you know, I don't know what date that you'd like to set for it. I mean, maybe you can bring it back to the next meeting, when you'd want us to put that on the agenda, because I know you guys.
Well, I'm opposing the motion, so I'm hoping there won't be a date. But to speak towards that, I will go on the record and say that I don't believe, I respect Attorney Tower, your opinion, but I don't believe that you can legislate against facts. And in this case, we do have very specific facts. They're not the ones that we assumed in the past. They're not the ones that we like. But the fact is that there is a legal definition of what an employee is. There's a ton of case law and regulations from the Department of Labor on down regarding that. And I think playing around with these legal definitions to include a subset of the community is dangerous, especially since we've offered a reasonable alternative that basically maintains the status quo financially and you know, reflects what the town is moving towards as a policy, even on its own health insurance policies for its employees. So, Mr. Barrett, did you have anything?
Yeah, I have a problem with that motion. I heard first that looking for a comparison. I had asked the question: is this policy going to be comparable? Obviously, if what has been presented, the gold, the platinum, the silver, is not comparable. It's going to be a change for these people, even though it may cost them less money. But now you're talking about family, you're talking about deductible, you're talking about co-pays. I would rather go back as directed for that comparison before I take a look or vote on a motion such as that. It's a conundrum that we have right before us.
Sure.
Your point is well taken. The attorney's point is well taken. I am uncomfortable with the motion.
Sure.
I would echo Councilman Bear's position. Not that I'm not open to the concept of what's on the floor here, because I am. I just don't think we have enough specificity as to what we would be doing. So in that regard,
Yeah, I agree.
I'm in agreement with my colleague, and
Just go Mr. Bass after me, and then, so what it sounds like I'm saying is that there's no overwhelming support for the ordinance, but there's not necessarily not looking to make a decision on the alternative plans as well until you get more information.
that's
Fair
a fair
enough.
statement.
Just as a point of order, did we suspend the rules to add this motion to the agenda?
No, we did not.
So the motion's improper to begin with.
Okay, which sounds like it might be, appropriate anyway.
I just have one question for Attorney Tower. To clarify, can we create an ordinance that would provide health insurance to the Children's Center and to the town cemetery, wherein they would not be designated as employees? They would be required to provide their own workman's comp and be required to provide their own liability insurance. So that the concerns that we have, which was one, all these other agencies coming out would be avoided. 2 was a workman's comp concern. 3 was a liability concern. 4 was the employee concern. All of those issues would be addressed. Can such an ordinance be crafted?
And could I add one part to the gentleman's question? And would there be any due process issues for other potentially eligible agencies such as the VNA or Meals on Wheels and so forth?
Well, it's our opinion that we could craft such an ordinance. It would take very careful scrivening,
Yeah.
and it would be based to address Councilman Chamberlain's concern. It would be addressed in a fashion that would be narrowly tailored to the full-time employees of, let's say, in this case, it would be the Children's Center of New Milford, Inc., or alternatively, New Milford Center Cemetery Association. Those are the 2 entities you're talking about. And it would be based upon a finding that they perform functions that are deemed by the town to be important services for the municipality itself. And we have to keep an eye on our provision, our statutes that give certain powers to municipalities, but we think that such an ordinance could be crafted. It would also have to be meshed with the present third-party administered self-insured plan, the Cigna plan, which I agree with His Honor the Mayor that right now that plan is written to address only employees, but such an ordinance we think could be blended with that.
So the way that it's written could be crafted in such a way that, say, Meals on Wheels or whatever other organizations came would then have to request a new ordinance, so to speak, or a modification to the ordinance?
Yeah, and I don't think that, it's not like such an ordinance would give any nonprofit standing to, to participate. It would name those 2 nonprofits and limit it to those.
Mr. Mayor.
I hear what Councilman Szymanski is saying. In a sense, we're talking about something that's 26 years old, so should be grandfathered.
Yeah.
And let's move on.
Yeah.
Move on with it.
Exactly.
Yes. You got something that's been in effect now for 26 years old. I am not sure at the full knowledge of the taxpayer, but it's been in existence for 26 years.
I hear you, Mr. Mayor.